Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget memory lane. Today we are going to work on our lake page in our journal. And so we had made this flip up that I was going to put on the lake pages the last time. And so I have that here. And this is the spread for the lake pages. So this is going to go on here, but I wanted to do some stenciling in the background. And so I thought on this side, I would put like a sunrise, and on this side, we have the sunset. Now, remember when I stamped it, my stamp did not come out real well. So all I did was just use a black permanent marker and filled in where it did not come on there. And then I just put some lines around it just to make it stand out a little bit because it was just kind of floating there in midair. So I decided that the stencil that I want to use for the back of this one is I want to put stars in the background. So this is going to be glued down here. It will have a pocket across the very bottom. So I just really need to stencil around these edges. So there's not going to be, you know, a whole lot of stenciling that we need to do. But I have this stencil that's got larger stars and smaller stars. And so what I did was originally I put this piece of tape across so that I would not accidentally catch some of these hearts. And then I got to thinking it's so close to the edges and I don't want to go over the edges. So I just put some tape around the edges on both sides just to make it so that I had area to get the star without worrying about am I getting off the edge of the stencil or not. So, and I could not tell you where the stencil came from. Most of my stencils come from garage sales and that type of thing, secondhand stores, little kids. You know, this I think probably came out of a little kids kit, and very possibly it could have been something I had bought for my girls. It's very thin, which thin is not bad. Thin can be good. It's easier to stencil through as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, so it's just a stencil that came from somewhere. But so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a little bit of faded jeans and a little bit of broken china. And I'm just going to put it on with a brush. I'm going to use this brush. All right, so I'm going to go in with the darker one first and just kind of pick up a few stars. Oops, I have to remember that really we only need to do the edges. And while that's still there, I'm going to just kind of brush off my, and now I'm going to come in with the turquoise. And there we go. It just kind of gives it two-tone. I want to pick up a few of these small stars. Just kind of here and there. Kind of smudged it there. And this star. There we go. All right, now, what I'm looking at is it actually, because this is such a small stencil, a lot of times I don't use my sponges because they leave lines. But I'm not liking how I'm using the brush in the way that you normally use it, but I'm getting too much. So I'm going back to the good old-fashioned, let's see. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the turquoise. And then just go in with the turquoise and put a few little stars here and there. And I still have to remember, I only want one star at a time. There we go. If I use this one right down in the corner, I can wind up with just one little star. And I'm not getting it all over the place. There, much better. Sometimes you just have to practice, and it's a little, you know, there's a little extra in there. That is what it is. I can't make that go away without totally changing it, and it's not something that has to be changed. I'm going to, this one right here, whoops, I'm going to use the one in the corner. There. That at least takes away the smudge. And pull one out there. And then we just need to kind of come down the side a bit. And put in a few of the bigger ones. Yeah, so it's all just a matter of just kind of playing with what you're doing until you get it the way that you want it to be. Now that I'm here by the corner, you want to make sure that you always want your stencil to be flat on your paper. So, you know, if you have to hold it down, make sure that you hold it down on the part that you want to use to stencil with. There we go. I like the way that that's looking. And I always have to try and remember when I'm doing two colors at the same time, try and remember to use the right sponge, or in this case, the right side of the sponge, because I'm just flipping it back and forth. And maybe one more there, and a few more over here. Because we're going to have a pocket on here, and we're going to have our other part there. That's looking good. Let's put in a little bit of turquoise. Hold it down nice and tight. Sorry, I'm a little bit quiet today. It has been a long few weeks, and everything is going very well. To those who kind of were concerned that I missed a video, thank you very much for your concern. I really appreciate that. And everything is fine. My sister came into town, and we've just been, I don't know why. I feel like it's been so busy, and yet when I really think about how busy it's been, I keep mixing colors. See, that's what I meant about trying to make sure that you remember that part. But no, it has been a really good summer. I am finally getting used to kind of going out and being in public, because I spent so many years just being home most of the time. And so yesterday, my husband and I just went to the city and went to a couple antique malls that pretty much took all day. And we had a really nice time. I think we bought two things. I bought some stamps, and he bought a book. But we just had a really nice time just being out and hanging out with each other. There, I think that that's going to be good. Let's, oh, I have a mess there. Oh, here it is. Let's see how this is going to work. And I think I like that. We've got a little few spaces where, you know, it doesn't have the stars, but that's good. It doesn't have to be completely filled in. I'm just going to grab a paper towel quick. I really should always remember to do this. Get a nice wet paper towel before I start messing with the inks, because I always make a mess when I use them. And I don't like to smear it all over everything. Oops. I have a couple drips here of water. There we go. Okay, so that's going to go on there. Now on the other side, I want to put the sunrise. And so I made a stencil, and I have this in my head. How it's going to work, we'll find out. So the way that I made my stencil was I just took like a roll of masking tape and I put it on there, and I drew the circle, a half circle, and then I just made some squiggly lines just to make my sun. And then I ripped it out. First I ripped out the circle because it was easier than trying to make all these corners. Once the circle was ripped out, these were just basically straight lines being torn raggedy on an angle. So that is how I got this stencil, because I thought I had a sunrise stencil, and I did not. So what I want to do is I want to do the rays in a light orange, and then do the circle in a darker orange, and then just kind of maybe blend them together a bit. And then I found this glitter paper, and this is what I'm going to use for my pocket. And then there will be a little bit left over that I'm going to use for a little pocket here, because I don't want a pocket all the way up that high on this side. And so I thought that that might turn out nice. Now maybe at some point, I haven't decided what yet, we might put something on the glitter paper, but it's pretty just like it is. And so let's just start with, let's see, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do like the orange first and then the lighter orange? Okay, and one thing I do want to do is I want to put something behind here, because it is probably going to go through. And that's okay if it goes through, because this is just regular paper, and these inks are they're quite wet, so it may go through. So I think, so when we do the other side, we will just do something like this that kind of covers that page. Let's see, where's the top of the page? The top of the page is there, so I'm going to bring this down a bit. I want it to go completely to the top. All right, and then because my pocket is going to come up to here, I want my pocket to overlap the bottom of the sunrise, so I don't need to worry about like if I get out of the lines or whatever at the bottom. I want to just kind of look right there is going to be the top of my sun. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And it's not too close. And then I just, before I drew my sun, I cut the paper. I cut this piece, this is cardstock, and I just ripped it actually as wide as my page. That way I knew if I made a stencil on it, it would fit on the page. So firstly, I have wild honey and spiced marmalade. So I'm going to use the wild honey first. And make sure that my brush is clean. I'm just going to kind of start off the paper. Because see how dark it is when you first start and you're not quite moving yet? And I picked the peach color page because I thought that would go nice with the sunrise. And I just want to make sure I hold it down well. Now I can keep this, and actually if I was doing this with acrylic paint, the more you do it with acrylic paint, the more you use a paper stencil, the sturdier your stencil will get, because the acrylic is plastic. And so the acrylic paint actually kind of plasticizes your plastic. So if you're careful with it, the more you use it, the more it will just kind of turn plasticky, and then, you know, it will just last a little bit longer. I do want to make sure that I come down below my points. Whoa. Remember how I said I'm supposed to hold it in place? And it's okay if you don't get this smooth look of, I've got a little dark spot there and there, because no matter what it is in nature, in real life, Nothing is exactly the same color. I mean, you know, even you're not the same color everywhere. So you have to remember that it's okay that it's not like one solid color of the rays and one solid color of the circle. You know, if you're splitting it, you just have to remember that, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to kind of start here lightly and then push a little harder when I get down here. Oh, there's not a whole lot of difference in my color here. And I am going to go down below the line because because I really don't have a place to start. I'm just going to start really lightly and then press a little harder as I go. Yes, I'm not worried about going below the bottom here because we're going to put that pocket there. So, oh, got a really dark spot there, kind of blend it in. And let's see what that looks like. Oops, I got a little bit here that I didn't want to, you know, that I let it move just a touch. And I can't get that off now. So now the question is, what do I want to do about that? Let's kind of bring this up a little bit more so you can see it. So I have this bit right here. So because it kind of goes from this ray to this ray, and it's kind of light, I could kind of do the same thing on all of them, and it will kind of fill this in. It will kind of make the sun a little fuller. Make it very, very light. And it is the lighter color that's on there. And I'm going to try it. If it gets to the point where I've tried to fix it and I absolutely can't, I'll cover it up with something else. And luckily, it did not seep through a whole bunch, so that's really nice. So I'm going to say that what happened was I kind of moved it, and it looks like that's about the shape that that one is. So I'm going to kind of do them all the same way. And so I'm just going to kind of go over here and very, very lightly. And that looks okay. So I'm going to do that on all of them. Make it smaller than the ray before it and lighter than the ray before it. Kind of try and move this one out just a little bit. Yeah, so this is looking good actually. You know what they say, happy mistakes. This really is going to make it look much better. I like that. And I will show it to you up close in just a second because it's turning out pretty cool. So always just remember, just play with it until you can't play with it anymore, until you say, you know what, the paper is too soaked with ink. There's just nothing else I can do with it. The colors are just way too black or whatever. And you just don't think that you can save it, then go ahead and replace it or cover it up. Do whatever it is that you feel you need to do. I'm going to put a longer ray here. There. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the darker color. And just kind of come down here a little bit more because I thought it needed it. Okay, so we had, make sure I put the lids on the right one. All right, so we had that one smudgy spot there, but now this is what we have. So see, there's always a way to try and get around whatever has happened. If it doesn't work, you cover it up with something else. Put in a new page. You can cover this whole page with another piece of paper. If this would have soaked through a lot, I would have had to have covered this page with a piece of paper kind of before I started, or something. So, you know, there's no cheating, there's no right, there's no wrong. You do whatever feels good to you. So now we are going to, I wonder if this is, I've got a cut here, punches there, and this is not even. So, but I was looking to see if this was wide enough. It's not really quite wide enough, you know, actually. That might be all right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of just tear this kind of like waves. Just because I want to. There's no reason it couldn't be straight. I just thought that this might kind of look fun. And then I just want to make sure that I do bring it up enough that it covers up the edge line of the sun here. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to kind of adjust a little bit. I think that I need to, first things first, let's cut it. I'm going to cut it just a little bit tall. So right about here, just so I have a little bit more to play with. Just put a little rip right there so I know where I'm supposed to be going. And then just line that rip up. And then I'm going to cut this piece off. There we go. There. Now I have less to deal with while I'm playing with it. Alrighty. So, yes, I don't like these two bumps here. There is a reason behind that. Because when I was a kid, I did a sun, and my grandfather, who was a painter, it was a sun coming up between the mountains. And he said to me, "What is that? A lady laying on her back?" And I have never forgot that in all of my years of creating. And every once in a while, like just today, it kind of makes me think I need to change this a little bit. So we're just going to change it. And that again is something that is, you know, personal to each and every one of us. You know, that's what creating is all about. It's about us. And whatever it is that we feel like we want to do, whatever we feel like is the right thing to do on that project. And I know I say this kind of stuff all the time, but it's so important to me because so many people sometimes stress over it. And it shouldn't be stressful. Okay, so I'm going to, this really needs to be cut straighter. So I'm barely going to shave a little bit off. I'm going to take it right to the narrowest edge and then just cut off the angle. See, it was just a little bit wider on one side than on the other. So let's get rid of that. Now let's see how that fits in here. So that's good. And whenever you glue in a pocket, don't butt it right up to the very edge because you don't want it to bind. So just get it close. That's probably 1/8 of an inch off. And I think if I come to this side and just cut it straight along there, from that shortest point, it's always best to have a very flat side. I know that that was cut just a little while ago, so I know it's straight. So that's the side that you want to put up against your trimmer when you're trimming, or line it up with your lines. Then you know you'll get a good cut. And so there we go. We've got a teensy tiny gap over here, and it matches up nicely everywhere. Now this one definitely, I think, could use maybe some words up here. But I like the way that that has turned out. So we're just going to glue it in with tacky glue. Or something else. My tacky glue is gone. Oh, I know, I have that poster glue. This seems to work very well. This is a new one, so I need to open it. Sorry about that. I think I just shook you. And there we go. Oops. Before we do that, though, I really want to edge this just a little bit with the turquoise along the edge. And remember, you should not do it over what you're working on, because sometimes the sponge starts to fall apart. And then if it gets on your book, it will leave marks. I was just thinking of something else as I was doing this too. I like that, but what if we have just a touch of color in here, making it also look like water? So we're going to do that. I'm going to close that up for a second. And I'm going to use a piece of cardstock. I'm going to use the top of my sun. Let's see how to undo this. Just to kind of make it look like movement, like waves. And I probably will not keep this sun, but even if I did, these two things could be used together at different times. The sunrise and water waves, so that's all right. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're just going to, I'm going to turn it. No, I'm not going to turn it over because I'm afraid that this is going to come off onto my blue, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to put this on here like this. I'm going to take one of my brushes. I'm just going to go right to the edge of the paper. And a lot of your glitter papers will take ink like this and they will still glitter. It may look a little bit muted, but usually with ink, with paint they won't glitter, but with ink they will. So I'm going to kind of go up there. Let's see if we have any kind of a change. That does make just a very, I don't even know if you can see it, a very subtle change. So if I think it's too subtle, I can put this back on here and put more layers of that, or we can use a little bit of the darker blue. And see how that looks. Now you can see it better. Okay, so now I'm going to do it again, but I'm not going to do it exactly. I'm actually going to flip it over this time, and I'm going to hope that the orange doesn't come off. I'm going to go with the dark blue right along our stencil here, or this is more of a mask really. A mask keeps ink or paint or whatever from getting on the part that you're covering. Okay, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the lighter and do the whole thing again, but go all the way up to where we did last time. So now can you see how that looks? And you've got the different colors there, but we've still got the glitter. So I like that. And I'm going to move it over a little bit because I really want it to be different. So I'll just have to finish up this little bit at the end after I'm done. And again, putting the darker one on first, And actually, the more that you are doing something like this, you start at the edge, and the more that you come up and go like this, it's always darker where you had this, and then it gets lighter, even if you don't have two colors. But this is making it quicker for me to do it this way. And actually, it looks okay right here on this side, so we don't need to worry about that. And so now I just want to do a little of the dark blue on the bottom. Just to kind of bring it all together. And then a little of the turquoise. And there we go. There is our water look. Water always is kind of lighter toward the shore and darker towards as you get deeper, so that looks pretty good that way too. There. Now, I'm happy with the way the pocket looks, and I'm happy with the sun. And so now we can actually put it together. Okay, because it's a new bottle, you not only have to cut it, but you have to take... Okay, and I a lot of times, I have a hard time with that. So a lot of times what I do is just poke a hole in it. And then you can take it off, or you can open it up that way. I usually just kind of press it back, and then I call that good. Or I could, you know, peel that off too. Whoa, that was a little too much glue. And I kind of am thinking I'm only going to go down the outside and the bottom, leaving the inside open. And the reason that I did that is because then if you get something stuck in there, it's easy to get it out. Versus having all three sides glued down. Something starts to slide that way, the book is going to stop it, so it's not going to come out. So it just makes it a little easier. If you get something stuck, you can kind of lift up this corner and look down in there. Just going to press on that. Going to... just what I'm doing here. I really wanted the parchment there. Alrighty. Just press that down. There. And that glue is kind of making the edge wet, so it's making the blue come onto this side just a little bit. So those kind of things will happen, and it's totally okay. So I thought I would show you how that happens. Yeah, so now when you put something in there, you can put it in, and you can easily, if you can't find it, if it gets lost down there, and I can't lift it up now because we're still wet, but you can lift that up. But I think that looks pretty cool. I like that. There we go. We've got our water, we've got our sunrise, and then on this side, we are going to have our sunset. I want a little pocket for the bottom there, and we are just going to use another piece of this, and I'm going to put it on like that. Should I make it as tall as the other side? I wasn't going to, but maybe I will. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to just cut it right above the butterflies. So if you put it on there, line it up with your top or your bottom, wherever your wherever you have the place to butt your paper, and most trimmers do have a place to butt up your paper. And once you do that, then you can look at, if you have lines on your trimmer, look at those lines to see if it looks like it's straight, which it does. So I'm going to cut it right there. And then again, remembering that I don't want to butt it right up tight against the other. So I'm going to cut it right here. And then we'll just quickly do the same. As we did with the other side, except we're going to make this one just a touch darker because it's nighttime, it's sunset. So we're going to make this a little darker, but we're still going to give it just a little bit of definition instead of having that flat top. Because sometimes really straight edges just, they don't look as organic as you may want them to. This is like a lake page, so you know it's more organic. So I'm going to bring this right up towards as far to the top as I can, because that is going to be pretty close to what we've got over here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now if I want to, because that's showing, and I think I do want to, I can just take a little bit of our ink and just, actually I'm going to start right in here. Just go like that. Now that's probably going to go through. Oh, luckily we had this on the other side, so it didn't go through. I'm going to say I made that awfully dark. Kind of want to get in that crack and all the way to the bottom. There. There. Now it's just, it's not as yellow and orange. It's not as noticeable that way. So let's just really quickly, if we can, because we want to get this finished and see how it looks. Now this is not going to go. Okay, now I have stuck my finger on there. This is shiny paper, and Distress inks are water soluble. I'm just smudging things. There we go. There we go. So you do have to be careful. When you get the ink all over your hands, remember you've got it there, especially whenever you're touching your sponges. And try and get it off. Okay. Let's shut this up again, and let's really quickly get some color on here. We're going to use the dark one, and I think we're just going to only use the dark one to make our, now this pocket hopefully will be darker than the other pocket. So you start from the paper and go upwards. Hold it in the same place. And it should be darker at where the paper is and get lighter a little bit as it goes up. Like that. So then we're going to flip it over so that it's not exactly the same. Make sure they don't line up. Whoops. And that's all right, because all we're doing is just kind of coloring in the background, so it's okay for it to move and get different layers. So I'm just going to start right down here and go up. Oops. So this is what we have so far. It looks pretty good, huh? I always like the way it looks when I do this. And I learned this, I think, on Create and Craft. I was watching a lady from Clarity Stamps that showed how to do this. So there we go. That is our night water. I think I've got a spot here that it's a little too light for me. There we go. Now it's better. Okay, this is going to be our last pocket. Before I mess with it too much, I'm going to wipe my hands off. If it comes off on, if it doesn't come off on the paper towel right now, it probably shouldn't come off too much on what I'm working on. So there we go. We've got that one on that side. This one is going to be on this side. And this, though, is going to be glued in, because that's what I wanted it to do. It's going to be glued in there, and then it will open up. It'll stay on the outside of this. I'm not going to go right to the edges, because I'm going to spread this glue out, and I don't want it squeezing out all over the place. So I'm going to put more in the middle. Decide where do I want it, because once I put it down, that's a lot of glue. There we go. That's where I want it. Kind of looking to make sure it looks straight at the bottom. Kind of looks straight at the top. So there we go. I'll just spread that out with a credit card or anything flat, a piece of cardboard, pulling it towards the bottom so that if it does squish out, it's going to squish out underneath where the pocket is. Now spread it out towards the edges just a little bit. And when that dries, because that's wet glue, it will dry nice and sturdy. Because things like this, I don't trust to stick glue very much. So now on this one, I'm going to put my glue on this side and this side. Always have to remember where I'm putting it. I kind of put it where it belongs, and then just kind of hold my hand closer to the edge I need to glue. Like I put my thumb closer to this edge. Then I knew that was the edge that I had to glue. Otherwise, I get confused because I'm flipping it over, and then sometimes I do the wrong side. Line that right up with the bottom. Press it down. Okay. I just want to put something underneath of it so that I can press it without worrying about getting glue all over everything. Wipe that extra glue off. And you know what? I did not edge that one. So we're going to edge it a little bit. Just go here at the bottom. And it looks okay at the top. So we're going to leave that just like it is. So there we go. This is our lake page. And again, I don't normally finish everything on a layout whenever I touch it, because first off, I plan it out before I come here. So if I haven't brought anything out, then, you know, I don't have anything to work with. I really think that this needs something here, but I'm not sure what. Maybe some words is what I'm really thinking. So I'll have to think about that, and then I'll come back and I will do that at a later date. And that's what I do a lot of times. It's like, this layout is pretty much finished. We have got this writing space here, and then we'll put some journaling cards in here. I think we need something here, and but I'll do that when I kind of do fill-ins. There are days where it's like, I just want to make some tags or something, or I just want to stencil or do this or that. So then on those days I'll go through, and then when I'm kind of done with my book, I go through and say, okay, now what do I need to do? And I'll do a couple, 2 or 3 pages, like put a word here, make a couple of cards, and that's really all this one needs, and it's done. So I'll do those types of things. Maybe I'll decide to edge the pages. Maybe I won't, you know, so there we go. I am happy with the way that this turned out. I'm going to, I have you under the tripod, but I'm going to try and take it out slowly. Hopefully it's not too bumpy for you. And just give you a close-up look of what we did today. So I really like the way that these turned out. And I like how this flip up is underneath the pocket because you can have a couple more journaling cards in there. But yet that one is solid. It's in there and it's solid. Helps make the book solid. Helps make the page solid. And it just, you know, I don't want everything always to come out. So there we go. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.